Hi Leeds, hope everybody's well and safe. Ruth Middleton is a producer at Slung Low, who during the COVID crisis created a non-means tested self-referral food bank. They deliver food, they call the lonely and they sort prescriptions. Slung Low have also created a book called Emergency Story Penguin. You can buy or donate a copy of the book for £8, or you can buy 2 copies for £12 and you'll be sent one and the other will be gifted to a child in Leeds. Have a listen to Ruth telling me all about the project. For this corona bloody virus extraordinary episode of Light on Leeds, Ruth Middleton has come along to talk to me. Hello, Ruth.
Hi, Hazel, hi.
How are you doing? How's everything been for you? And now we're in lockdown too.
You know what? I can't complain. I'm well, my family's well, everyone here at Slung Low is well. And we're continuing through lockdown too because of the work we do. So we're still coming into work every day. So I'm good.
Good. So as you've mentioned, Ruth, you work with Slung Low, you're a producer. And I'm sure, well, for anybody who doesn't know, can you explain a little bit about what Slung Low is and how you have transformed through this strange time we're all living through?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So first and foremost, we, Slung Low, are a theatre company and we make big, often outside, outdoor, large-scale theatre productions. And since first lockdown, we have become the ward lead for social referrals in Holbeck and Beeston, which is our communities in Leeds. So that at the beginning meant all sorts of things, from picking up prescriptions, doing people's shopping, befriending calls, crisis calls for people. I think a cat got spayed at one point. It was anything that people needed help with. We were on their doorstep and we had the resources and the time and the people and the willingness to help. So we did. And so that was March, April, May. And since then, it's kind of turned into the number one thing people needed was food. We now run a non-means tested food bank, which means if you need food, you get food. You don't need to tell us why you need it. We've got the food, we get it to you, and we run it Monday to Friday. And yeah, that's what we're doing alongside everything else we do at the moment.
Gosh, so that was a big change, wasn't it, to go from being a theatre company to doing what you're doing now?
From the outside, it looks like a big change, but we strive to be useful and to be kind to our community, whether that be the theatre community or whether that be physically on our doorstep. And so when we were initially asked, even though it seems perhaps outside of our, if you call it a remit, it's not. It's just an extension, and it's just lots and lots of people, everyone, in fact, has had to rethink and kind of roll with the punches through this coronavirus. And so we have, yes, it takes a lot of effort to change, but I think Slung Low are really good at problem solving. This is a big problem. We just jumped in and solving what we can. So yeah, I wouldn't put food bank and theatre company maybe on the same shelf in the library, but we are being useful. We are being kind to our communities.
I think that's just a great motto for everyone, isn't it? Just try and be useful.
Yeah, and you know what? Sometimes it really helps. You know, if you're in a sticky situation, or you just don't know what the right thing to do is. And often there isn't a right thing to do. There's lots of different things you could do. And if you're just not sure, you ask yourself, well, is it kind? Or which is the kindest and which is the most useful? And just go with that. It might not, but you have to have something. And that's often a good rudder, especially when we're in these crazy times.
Yeah, I totally agree. And so, as well as everything else that you're doing down at Slung Low, you've also produced a book for children.
Yes.
And what is that?
This is Emergency Story Penguin, and it's a children's book. And the story actually started out as a touring theatre piece, and it was really successful. And it toured all over the country, and it was so magical, and children just loved it. There was a submarine that they could get into, and it was just full of magic, full of joy, full of energy. And it was wonderful. But it toured, it had its life. And I think when the team were coming to look at what we were going to do in 2020, that was put on the table again as, giving it another life. But then the coronavirus hit and everyone had to get on their heads and rethink. And the suggestion was made about why don't we, because we can't go into schools and do what we normally do. We can't tell our stories like we normally would. So we had to think about, why don't we create a book? And I think a real driving force behind that was Alan, our artistic director. He's on the board of governors for the local primary school. And the head was telling him that they often use, or they do use, books as prizes in school because a lot of their children will get to school, get to reception age, and they won't have any books. They've never had a book before. And so they really try and reward and make sure that by the time they leave their primary school, they do have books. And so we could jump on that definitely. It's like, there's a problem. We can solve that. And we got a team together and we turned the theatre show into a book. And we promised that every child in Holbeck will get a copy of that book by Christmas.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's really exciting. And I love the book. It's a real hardback book. Good.
And have you had the chance to go and speak to any children about the book, or has that all had to be put on hold?
So we were really lucky. We have very small groups. We were able to go in. We spent a week going into the local primary school. There were 5 of us in total that went in, and we read the book to children, and it was it just made your soul sing, because to actually see the children and their reactions, and there's loads of opportunities in the book for them to join in, for them to come up with actions, for them to song. It's really interactive, and it was just lovely. Gosh, it just made you realize how much you love, because children are a great audience. They're incredibly honest, and for the opportunity to share something with them and to get that immediate feedback and to tell a story, it was really wonderful. And the best bit is we spent the week doing that, and at the end of the week we dropped off 340 books, and they all went home that weekend with a copy of their own copy of the book, which was lovely. Yeah, it was good. It was good.
Oh, that's fantastic. Wow. And so you can go on your Slung Low website, which I'll put obviously links in the podcast notes.
Great.
And people could go on there, they can buy a book, and they can also donate a book, is that correct?
Yeah, so you can buy a single book for you, £8, and we'll get it sent out to you. Or there's an option there to buy one book and donate a second book to a child in Holbeck, and that's £12. And so that's that's the challenge we've set ourselves, is to get every child in Holbeck a copy of this book by Christmas. And so that's what everyone can help with. Buy one and donate one.
What a fantastic challenge to have. How is it all going?
Really good. It's a lot of fun. Like today we just dropped off 419 books to another local primary school. And again, I just love dropping them off. I'm like, this is just so much fun. And so we're heading towards our target, definitely. And we're going to smash it before Christmas.
That is just such great news, isn't it? And what a great way for other people to get involved in another way of being kind and helpful.
Yeah, and being part of something. People want to help. We need to create the infrastructure for people to be able to. One of the things I do love about Leeds is that willingness to help, and that want to help. I just can't put it more simply than that. There is a huge energy about wanting to help, your neighbour, your fellow human being.
Yeah, definitely 100%. And it's something that obviously we really, really need in these times for people, who are struggling for whatever reason. So Ruth, how long have you been at Slung Low?
Not very long. I am definitely the newbie. I started in August with Slung Low. So it was an interesting time, because they're not doing what they would normally do. They were being helpful kind, but we weren't quite in lockdown. So it was this transitional period of, we were still very much doing the food bank. And my role has been to support the food bank and get in there every day and manage our amazing volunteers that come and deliver the food every day, and speak to our referrals and kind of handle that, as well as jumping on board with the other projects like the penguins, and we were doing socially distanced You Can Bet live theatre, and we were hosting opera that came to the car park, and lots of things. So it's just been amazing, a whirlwind, but I always knew it was going to be, because that's the nature of Slung Low. You never quite know what you're going to be doing from day to day. And because we say yes to as much as we can, things change so fast here, and a new project can roll out between one day and the next. And it's really exciting.
Never a dull moment.
No, you're never bored, and I'm so grateful.
And how have you coped yourself during the first lockdown and now? Have you found any sort of resources or things to help you through personally, or your family?
I personally feel incredibly lucky, because I have a very full, busy family life. There's the 6 of us. There's me, my husband, my mother-in-law, my 2 stepkids, and my daughter. And the first lockdown, I was still working, but everyone else was at home. And it was it still felt really busy. It still felt really full. I didn't struggle with the loneliness that I think a lot of people felt. And I think I got a new appreciation for a busy family life, because sometimes it can feel like, I haven't got a minute to breathe. But actually, I developed a new gratitude for the chaos a young family naturally brings.
Yeah.
Walks. I mean, I've always loved walking. We've got 2 dogs, and just getting out and walking and breathing in the fresh air and the weather, the seasonal changes. I've really, just taking the time,
Yeah.
breathe it in, to look, watch changes. I think lots of people rediscovered gardens and green spaces, and I think that's been a big saviour for me. And also, I've been incredibly lucky because throughout this whole thing, I've been able to go to work.
Yeah.
Before Slung Low, I was at the NHS, and so we were working all the way through the pandemic or the first lockdown. And then obviously Slung Low were running the food bank, and we've been going throughout. So having that routine, that always really helps as well. I suppose what I've developed is an appreciation for some of the things I might have complained about before. Good. Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's really good, isn't it? And I heard as well that in your spare time, you quite like baking cakes.
Yeah, I mean, I have the biggest sweet tooth. It's insane. I mean, they joke about it in the office, but I can just eat and eat and eat sugary chocolate cake. Yeah, it's not good, but I really enjoy it. And here, my goodness, we eat well at Slung Low, and we love sharing food. And so yeah, there's lots of opportunities to bake. And I love baking with my stepkids as well. Like my youngest stepdaughter, she's a really great baker, like really fab. And it was a really lovely way of sharing time in the kitchen. My husband's a chef, so he's actually the one who knows what he's doing. And if we ever got stuck, he'd get us out of a sticky situation, or he'd advise how we can make it better. And he was always willing to eat.
That's a good sign.
And also, my stepson, he loves the idea of like making his own incredibly unhealthy breakfast, like pancakes, waffles, and then you can choose all your own toppings. And so he's really interested in that way. And then our little Freya, she will eat anything, being a toddler. So yeah, I just really love creating in the kitchen, making a mess, which I'm very good at, and then being able to eat what you've made even better.
Yeah, I mean, for a while I was by myself during the first lockdown. I've got my niece staying with me now, but in the first lockdown I was by myself, and I did the same thing that a lot of people do. I was like, oh, I'm going to bake. But then I'd be like, oh, I've baked a whole cake, but there's only me to eat it. And then I was a bit like, I'm going to have to stop making cakes now.
Oh, I have a whole family, and it gets devoured. So you have to act fast in our house if you want.
Yeah, to get your hands on it.
Yeah.
And so Ruth, you said you came from the NHS. So was that quite a big change of role for you then to come from the NHS to Slung Low? Or was it a similar kind of thing you were doing?
I know nothing is similar to Slung Low in the best possible way.
Yeah.
No, it was a big change from that jump. I've got a bit of a varied background. I initially trained as an actress down in London, and I did that for a couple of years, and then I fell into finance, and I trained and got qualified as an accountant, and I was kind of doing a finance role within the NHS. But then when the opportunity came up at Slung Low, I've known them for a very long time, and it was just too good an opportunity not to jump at. And I was so delighted that they offered me the role. And then it was great because during the pandemic, what I was doing at the NHS wasn't a priority. And so we deployed, and there was an opportunity to actually go out and help those on the wards. So it was much more aligned with what Slung Low do. It's about being out there, being useful, being kind. We were on the wards. We were stock taking and supplying PPE to nurses and doctors and those going around the wards. And it was much more like a production team, as in, there's the problem and how are you going to solve it? And just working as a team, lots of energy. And it really made me realize, gosh, this is what I run on. This is where I've got some skills and some energy. And then to jump into Slung Low, it just goes up a couple of notches. In terms of actual job description and roles, yes, a very different kettle of fish.
Yeah, very different. And so you said you did some acting in London. Where are you from originally? Are you Leeds born? Whereabouts are you from?
Leeds born and bred, yeah. I mean,
oh, excellent.
Grew up in Pudsey, and I now live in Pudsey. So I did a full round trip. Started in Leeds, went to London, moved to Manchester for a bit, and then back to Leeds, and I just love it. Like, my mum and dad are still in the family home that we grew up in.
Oh,
very much have roots here. My husband, who's from Leicester, really enjoys living in Leeds. It's definitely like where we're bringing up the family and the kids, and where we're going to stay.
So you're definitely qualified to answer the 3 questions that I always ask?
Yes. Although I did have to ask the team and say, well, what do you guys think as well? I might have got some help.
Oh, well, that's absolutely fine. It's always good to have a bit of a collaborative thinking. What would you say if somebody asked you is the best thing about the city of Leeds?
best thing about the city of Leeds, for me, I believe it's how child-friendly Leeds is and how the city has embraced that badge of being a child-friendly city. Like our huge green spaces that we've got. And it's just such I believe it's a fantastic place to be a child now growing up in Leeds. There's so much available. There's so many opportunities. As I said before, the green space is just being able to get outside and breathe in the fresh air and watch nature. I'm really excited and lucky to be bringing up my family in Leeds. So that's what I think is the best thing about.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. I brought up my son Jay here, and you're right. There's just so many opportunities and great things for kids to do, and like even in the summer holidays, there'd be schools putting on different things that they could get involved in, theatrical productions and sport, all sorts of things.
Yes, yeah. There is a real energy about just recognizing how special it is.
I agree with you on the child-friendly status of Leeds. And if you had to choose something that you think is not so great about the city, what would you say that was?
My colleagues helped me with this. Not so great about Leeds. We love the green spaces, but there seems to be lacking those spaces the closer and closer you get into a city centre, which you can understand. But I think there are more opportunities to bring those bigger spaces or open spaces or make more of our open spaces in towards the centre of Leeds. There is also a big, looking at it from the industry point of view, there is a lot invested into the city centre. We have some fantastic establishments in the city centre, but just on their doorstep in the areas that we particularly try to serve here, Holbeck and Beeston, just on the outskirts of the city centre, there is a real drop-off in investment. And actually, I don't think we engage enough with those local communities that won't make that steps into town.
Yeah.
They're not made to feel welcome enough, or that it's for them, or this is about you and this is your city. So I think we sometimes let down the communities that are right under our nose, maybe to hit those in some of the suburbs who will make that journey into the centre of town to, take those opportunities, to take their kids to see things, to experience things. So I think sometimes we let down those that are right under our nose.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's more room for things that aren't just to do with buying things, not just to, I don't think the city centre should just be about shopping in high-end shops. And, I think there's you could have creative spaces
absolutely
within the city centre and reasons to go into town that are not just about spending, basically.
Absolutely. Because that can be a massive barrier for a lot of families and a lot of people that maybe don't, especially now. Gosh, look where are people going to be next year? Lives are completely turned around and people are rethinking all the time, well now, about what it is they want, what they're going to spend their money on. There's going to be less of it around. Yeah, so I think that offering needs to be rethought and who they're offering it to and how we can break down some barriers to those communities, making that step to engage with loads of amazing creative stuff that we've got going on in the city. But yes.
Yeah, definitely. And if somebody was a long-term resident of Leeds, would you be able to tell them about something that you would consider to be a hidden gem, but that they might never have heard of?
Oh, this was a fab question. Well, they're all fab questions, but this really got me thinking. I would like to give a shout out about, there is a cafe in Pudsey, which is still in Leeds. It's not in the city centre, but it's in Leeds, and it's called Pop Along, and it's an independent cafe, and it goes along this what I'm really involved in is, or excited about, is about child friendly, and this little cafe is just bursting full of creative workshops, and it's a space, family friendly, real child friendly space, from tiny little babies up to toddlers and the little ones. And it's run by Hazel, and she was just determined to create a space that was so family friendly, great food, great coffee. She's now got an ice cream machine, and it's just full of creative energy, and take the kids there. And she always hosts different, or she did, and she's reinventing herself through coronavirus, but hosts loads and loads of different activities, from board game nights for families to messy play for little ones to female entrepreneur speakers. It was just, she really tapped into the energy that was around Leeds, and she creates a space for it, as well as great coffee. So I think that is something that, I think that's my hidden gem of Leeds, is Pop Along Cafe.
No, it sounds like a great one. But I must just tell you, Ruth, as well, while you hear that, quite often the answer to that question is Slung Low.
Amazing.
People will say, I'm sure people know about it, but just in case there's anybody who doesn't.
Oh, that is awesome. I mean, I feel so lucky and so jammy to be part of the team. It's certainly a great feeling. I have to say, I don't get, sometimes you get that Sunday dread, like don't ruin Sunday thinking about Monday. Well, I don't get that anymore.
No.
I'm going to work at Slung Low.
Oh, that's amazing.
It is. I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky and I'm very grateful. I mean, it's hard work, but it's so rewarding. And yeah, it is nice. And oh my goodness, I tell you what, good things breed good things, because the people that come and help us, our volunteers, we get such great energy, and they just work so hard, and we definitely get back what we put out there. You put out good vibes and you get it back. And it really taps into that fantastic energy that Leeds has got. I tell you what, I'm going back on myself now, but the one thing I wanted to say that I didn't think Leeds was good at is shouting about itself, shouting about what we're good at. Manchester does it and Liverpool does it with bells on. Like Leeds, we're modest, like we're brilliant, but we're not going to shout about it. Well, I think that we need to change that, because we're such a great city, and the fact people want to help each other. I said it before.
I know. I mean, this podcast is all about Leeds and shout about how great it is. And last week I published my 75th episode, and when I started, I thought I might actually run out of people and things, but I just never do.
No, and hats off to you, because that's the sort of platform we need to shout about what's amazing about our city, be proud about it. I think we are very proud, but we're modest.
Yeah.
Start shouting about this is how awesome it is to live in Leeds, to be from Leeds, to be connected to Leeds, to visit Leeds, because there's just so much here. And we're so wonderful, and we're so willing to help one another.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. Ruth, what will you be doing with the rest of your day today?
I'm going to look at my to-do list. It's been one of those days where you jumped into this and that and had this conversation with that person. I'm going to look at my to-do list. And gosh, what I am doing is we are having a Christmas fair on the 5th of December, and it is going ahead. We're going to be out of lockdown by then. And so I've got some really exciting conversations to have around that. There's going to be it's just going to be so festive. And I think people will be so ready to grab hold of Christmas and go, yes, we're having this year. And so actually,
yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I absolutely adore Christmas anyway. And I've been to the Slung Low Christmas Fair quite often. My sister actually came and had a stall one year, and it was just brilliant, and it's just a wonderful atmosphere, and I'd encourage everybody to go along.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. It should be a really special one this year.
Excellent. Well, thank you again so much for coming and talk to me, Ruth, and thank you so much for yours and all the team at Slung Low's hard work. And I will put links in the podcast notes that people can go and buy a copy of Emergency Story Penguin and help to fulfill your target of making sure that every child in Holbeck has that book.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been really cool talking to you. Thank you.
You too. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye. What's happening in this great city? We'll tell you. Wait a minute.
I had a great time chatting to Ruth about the Emergency Story Penguin and all of the great initiatives they have going on at Slung Low. Do click through on the links in the podcast notes if you'd like to donate a book to a child in Holbeck. The featured song this week is by Beth Kilburn and is called Piece of Home. It's a beautiful track, and thanks so much to Beth for sharing it and to previous guest Ian Baxter for sourcing it. Enjoy!
Twilight, we'll dive into the dark. I'd have you to tell me what the light was like. Don't make me go alone. You're craving, even when the taste is gone. So come keep me warm. I get scared. You can be the piece of home. We won't lose our way after all. A shadow remains beside the fall. He's shackled by his son's spell. Lay down beside me. Sing the baby to sleep. Have courage out there. These waters are deep. This place could be ours, clandestine, bleeding out to sea for miles, undress for the stars. For tonight, forget what we believe we are. Lay down beside me. Sing the baby to sleep. Have courage out there. These waters are deep. Send out your secrets in a bottle. We'll cast out the nets. Drink the dirty water. What if we just remember each other? We won't lose our way after all. We only go inside ourselves. We may be afraid, but if we fall, we only need ask for help. Don't make me go alone. You're craving, even when the taste is gone. So come keep me warm. I get scared. You can be the map to home.